It's about that time.
Hello, Jacque Williams here, your host for City Views, and we're at beautiful Cove Park today to meet the candidates. So we want to take this opportunity to bring to you 64th State District Rep, Miss Maria Horn. Maria, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jack. It's a pretty beautiful day to be out here in Cove Park, I got to tell you. Doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, but we're socially distancing and all
Yeah,
that kind
I know,
of
that's the
stuff,
hard part. We got to
man.
keep leaning away from each other.
I'm like,
that is the hard thing.
And you're like so likable, it's like.
And it is, particularly this year, because we're so limited in the personal contact. And
Yes.
2 years ago, I would have knocked on thousands of doors by now, and you just can't
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah.
That when you actually get together with people live in an outdoor space, you really just want to hug them and get close. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that we're not there yet.
You must have been reading my mind, because that was going to be my first question to you. How has the coronavirus impacted your campaigning?
It's a huge impact. I mean, knocking on doors 2 years ago, and the personal conversations you have with people of all political stripes. In fact, some of the most valuable ones I had in 2018 were with people who had wildly different political views than I. But to be able to talk to people on their doorstep about the issues that most affect their lives, people were actually hungry for that and happy to have the conversation for the most part, even if they disagreed with you. And I really missed that this year. And so, you look for it in other ways. You look for it, in casual meetings at the grocery store or in the post office, and you try to wear, stuff that labels you to people, so that it's kind of an invitation to have a conversation. I hope anyway. But it's a different campaign season for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Now, with all that being said, I'm sure it provides a unique set of challenges for you, because while you're dealing with the COVID in terms of how it affects your campaign, you're also dealing with the issues that are emanating from that eventually you're going to have to legislate on. How do you square that and bring that into a perspective that's palatable for you?
So it definitely, the two are hugely overlapping. I mean, COVID has dominated everything, as you say, from the details of our lives to policy. And so I think one of the things, there are some lessons that we've learned that I actually think are positive. For example, the public in public health. For me to be healthy, I need you to be healthy. My health is related to yours. That's the same for, my vote. For my vote to count, I need your vote to count. We need systems that protect us all and that protect that connection that we have to one another. I think particularly at a time of when we're all isolated, and so many of us, I was lucky enough for the most part to be, potted up with my family. My kids were home working remotely, but a lot of people are not, and they really are alone. And I think it's a real crisis, but it does make it clear how important our connection to one another is from both a personal and a legislative and policy aspect. And so I think it does tie into the things that I look forward to doing legislatively.
Now, if people aren't familiar with you, your background is in law as a prosecutor. And we all kind of understand that prosecutors are very analytical in a lot of their processes. How do you view that in deliberating on your work?
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think there are some people who think of prosecutors as people who, pound the table and demand certain things. Actually, a huge part of my job, and you and I have discussed this before, as a prosecutor, was investigation. And it was figuring things out. And you have an obligation, particularly as a federal prosecutor, we did a lot of complex investigations. And my job was to find out the truth and to figure out what's actually happening, and then to piece together a story that makes it persuasive. And I think that has a lot of relevance to how you do legislation. You have to take that first moment to listen to what's happening around you, to investigate, to do research, to go back and talk to people and make, analyze what's credible, what's not credible, and then put something together that's going to make sense. And it requires a lot of details, and it requires the ability then to take those details and explain it to a jury or a judge and make it clear and make it understandable and persuasive to people. So I think there's a lot of help. It helps me a lot.
How do you incorporate those objectives in this political environment that's so a lot of times entrenched in political extremes. What value do you place on working across the aisle to reach those consensus that, as a legislator, you know are very important?
They are really important, and I think now when we have less, as a legislature, we were not meeting. We don't encounter one another as much anymore, and I think that's a real danger because it puts us more on social media, and we all know social media tends to break down to bubbles of people with whom you agree, and so we really have to make sure that we continue to look for those opportunities because you learn from other people, and so one of the things that I have, try hard to do both as a parent and as a legislator is to, even if when somebody's coming to me, even if they're angry or in pain or use hostile language, to try to really listen to them and understand what's the issue and what I can do to try to help them and not to react to that. Don't take it personally. It's not, people are coming from all kinds of really stressful situations right now, and it's not. They're trying to, resolve scary things in their lives, and it's our job as legislators not to get on that emotional train with them, but to understand actually what we can try to do to alleviate some of that stress.
Now, the final question I want to leave you with, Maria, because I think that this is very important in context of everything that's going on right now. But how or do you feel that there is a trust issue between we the people and our government representatives that has to be somehow resolved in order to get our economy and some of our social issues back in a perspective that they can be dealt with more effectively?
Trust is huge. You're absolutely right. I mean, trust underpins everything in our government, in our economic lives, in our personal lives, and you have to build that. You don't, I don't know, you do hear politicians say, trust me, but, that doesn't really work, right? I mean, that's often a cue not to trust them. So trust is something you have to earn, and you do that by being accountable, by following through on what you say you're going to do, being honest, including sometimes saying things to people that might challenge their preconceptions or correcting something about. I mean, we've had some controversial pieces of legislation that people were angry about, and I have spent a lot of time listening to what they might be angry about and explaining to them, because sometimes they have inaccurate versions of what we actually did, and you have to make sure to go back and patiently try to be clear about things and accountable, so people can make good choices.
Well, I think that's very important, Maria, and you definitely have demonstrated that level of credibility in your term thus far in office, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to our viewing audience that I'm sure want to get to know their candidates just a little bit better. So.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's always nice talking to you and to all of you. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, 64th State District Rep Maria Horn with us today in beautiful Poe Park right here in the fine city of Torrington. You guys hold on. We're going to be coming back with more good stuff. We want to remind you to check out our sponsor, Toth Insurance Agency, located at 1151 East Main Street. Better protection, better value.